Hello, my name is Dale Wilhite. I live in Mountain Village, Colorado. If you want to find out anything about me, go to MySpace where I have a page. This webcam video is my fourth one that deals with the Air Force. My goal here is to educate you on a few things that might be of interest to you if you decide to join the Air Force or if you're already in the Air Force. There's something that I found out after I joined that the recruiters never bothered to tell me. And what that was is that once you serve a year in the Air Force and your AFSC is overloaded, meaning your job, um, and you would like to get out, you can possibly do so as long as you don't have any reprimands. Uh, I've never tried it, but I remember learning about it when I was in the Air Force. But it would be in your interest if you've served a year at least, you don't like it, and you just want to get out, to look into that. And you would have to serve in the reserves. I don't know if you'd have to sign up for 4 years or another 6 years or what. I don't know. Because it's changed a little bit since I was in. But that's something to keep in mind because it can, sometimes people get in the military and it just isn't for them. It just isn't their thing, Just like I'm a military brat, and after I joined the Air Force, I found out it really wasn't for me very much because I grew up on military bases, and military brats don't necessarily make very good military personnel anyhow. It's not so much that they're bad; it's just that you've lived so much of your life on a base as a child that you just want to know what it's like to be free. So that's something else to think about if you're a military brat. The more important, as I've said, if you've served a year, you don't have any reprimands, you have a clean record, your AFSC is overloaded, they don't really need you, you could probably get out and serve in the reserves. So that's something you should check into. And do not depend on some Air Force recruiter to tell you this because they're not going to tell you. That's something to keep in mind. A second little thing I'll go ahead and add is when I went in the Air Force, it was in January of '79, and I remember that during basic training, we were exempted from using from a lot of our exercises because it was so cold. So keep in mind if you join in January, you may luckily get out of a few little things. That's something to consider if you're not really into it. Air Force is more mental than it is physical anyhow. You take a lot of tests, and some of those tests you flunk, you go home. That's just the way it is. The military is becoming more sophisticated, and it's not so much guns and planes anymore. It's other things now, and so that's something to keep in mind. So really, the best time if you like cold weather, go in January. If you like hot weather, July would be just perfect for you in San Antonio, but you'll get plenty of hot weather, that's for sure. That's basically, I think, all I wanted to say about the Air Force. Um, it's a good career. It's a good thing to join if you don't want to have to kill people, unless you're a pilot, of course. Uh, my recommendation: some of the best bases, if you like the Sunshine State and like a lot of warm weather, I would go to Tyndall Air Force Base. I would try for Eglin Air Force Base or Herbert Field in Mary Esther, Florida, which is next to Pensacola or in between Pensacola and Panama City. Of course, Tyndall's in Panama City near Parker and Mexico Beach. And Eglin, of course, is in Pensacola. These are some good bases. So is Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi. Most of the bases that I was on and that my dad was on are all closed down. That's like Goose Air Force Base, Craig Air Force Base in Selma, Alabama. Goose Air Force Base was up in Canada, of course. Let's see, there's one of the Air Force bases I was at was Blythefield. That was just one of many. So they're not, not as many Air Force bases as there once was. But anyhow, I just wanted to share this one little bit of information with you because I thought it was very important. Because I realized in my other videos I might not have revealed this, but it's important to know this because just sometimes the person joins, they're in for a year, or even before that, and they just realize they don't like it, and they're trying to look for a way out. And this is one of the ways out, even though you're not technically all the way out, but you're basically a civilian again, and you just serve, a couple of days a week, a month, for I guess the next 4 years or however long they have now. I don't know what the time is anymore. But the Air Force can be a good career for you. It can give you some. It's I don't know. You can live off base if you don't like living on base. Some of the barracks uh, are not very desirable living spaces, especially since you might be going to bed at 10 at night and somebody comes in at midnight from work below you or above you or next to you and blasting music wide open. So it's like a jungle sometimes on these bases. So that's why some military personnel just move off base. It's a lot better that way. One other interesting fact about the military I discovered when I was in the Air Force is that when I meet people who were TDY from Alaska or Hawaii, the people who were TDY from Alaska couldn't wait to get back. The people who were TDY from Wheeler Air Force Base on Oahu in Hawaii didn't want to go back. For some reason, as odd as it is to me, a lot of people didn't like Wheeler Air Force Base on Oahu. And I have lived in Hawaii for 4.5 years, and I lived 6 months, close to 6 months on Oahu back in 89, 90. And I discovered that the reason why a lot of Air Force personnel don't like Wheeler is not so much because of the base, it's just that Hawaii, I guess there's just only so much you can do. But I don't think you can, in Alaska, I guess maybe you can do a lot more, whenever it's not 80 below zero. But that's just something I've never quite understood. I've often been baffled about that, but I would meet people who would just say, I can't wait to get back to Alaska, our military personnel. And but Oahu, Wheeler Air Force Base, for some unknown reason, nobody wanted to go there or go back. That was very odd. When I joined, that's the first place I would have loved to have been stationed at, because I love Hawaii. But it's an island, and some of your tours are now 4 years in one place. When my dad was in, we were traveling almost every year to a new base. They don't do that anymore. Even when I was in, they were stationing people almost for 3 years at one base. So wherever you get stationed at, you may spend the first 4 years of your tour on that base. You can swap when you go get out of basic training. You go to your where you go to be trained at training base. I went to Keesler Air Force Base. When you get your assignment at tech school and you don't like it, then you need to find somebody that's in your same AFSC, and there should be people there, who might want to swap with you. But if you're going to North Dakota, don't count on anybody swapping with you. If you're going to Turkey, don't count on anybody swapping with you. That's going to be very difficult to do. If you have to go to the Rock up in Alaska, don't count on anybody swapping with you. But you can do that, and that's something to keep in mind. So that little bit of information I think is important for you to know. And one other little thing I might add here, that when I was in tech school, there was this guy just got married, joined the Air Force because he couldn't find any work. This was during the Carter era when unemployment was like it is now, or even worse than now. And they were going to send him to Turkey. So he went to the sergeant, told him he smoked marijuana, which of course he did. They gave him what's called a general discharge. And what that means, it's not a dishonorable discharge, it's just a general discharge, but it's a bit of a disgrace, of course. But 6 months later, that general discharge will turn into an honorable discharge. I don't know if they still do that now, but they probably do. So if you get in the military and get into a little trouble and you get a general discharge, that's not a bad thing necessarily compared to a dishonorable discharge. And they can be it'll be changed to an honorable discharge 6 months later. As far as I know, that is still intact. I don't know. I just remember what I was told when I was in the Air Force. So that's something to consider if you get yourself into a bit of trouble. Anyway, I'll stop it here. Hope this information helped a little bit, but I just mainly wanted to inform you about how you can get out of the Air Force full-time. If you join and you don't like it, you just need to serve a year, have an AFSC that's overloaded, and basically you could possibly get out to serve in the reserves. And that's just something to ask, to investigate even before you join the Air Force to see if it's still true today. Thank you for your time.